Good afternoon, ladies and menfolk, and welcome to episode 14 of the Word Ninja podcast. We're coming to you today for a multi-hour ramble of writers, surviving muses, battling writer's blocks, and encouraging writers to get writing already. You're joining us with our co-hosts, Calvin Williams,
Hello, everybody.
William Granville,
Hello, hello.
your instigator of literary insanity, Charles Muir, and special, super awesome guest, Tom Bourguillon, that I can never pronounce properly.
That's fine. Tend to have a French accent. Usually get it.
How
Thanks
do
for
you
having me.
pronounce it properly?
A Bourguillon.
I'm like 50% there.
There you go. Yeah.
But yes, Tom is a recently published author. Congratulations.
Woo.
Thank you.
Now, we thought we'd do something special for this episode, having a recently published author with us, by actually doing an author highlights interview with him. So there will be no actual talking points this episode, just a going back and forth about Tom's writing and publishing process to kind of get an inside view of just what does it take to be a published author.
So basically, this podcast is all about you, Tom.
You're damn right.
Episode 14, the Tomcast.
Nice.
All right, to kick things off, let's see what our first question is while I bring up the show notes. Ooh, it's a long multi-one. Tell us about your past, present, and possible future relations to the ideas for your book. How did you get started? What took you to the next level? What did you believe when you started versus what you learned about that? And what do you know now that you didn't know then?
And take
And
a breath. Yeah.
do you regret putting that many questions as just number one?
Yes. I do now. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you again for having me on this podcast, and hopefully the opportunity presents itself, I'd like to join more. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, definitely.
Awesome.
So yeah, just to start this off, the initial idea came when I initially wanted to make a fantasy story. Years back, I was in a mood to read a lot of fantasy stories. So it was Halloween years back, and I read a story. It's a collection of short stories called Just One Sip. So it was just one of these collections where it's vampire stories living in Las Vegas, people living with zombies, and silly things like that. And in my ego, I said to myself, I can write something like this, and even better. So I said, let me create a world where magic exists and it's constant, and people draw magic from gods and demons. And I created characters that were based on my favorite two characters from. And I'm going to kind of out myself. I guess I'm going to decide to do it now. Charmed was the show that I did follow. So, my favorite two characters were Piper and Phoebe, and I kind of modeled my characters based on that because to me Piper was really cool, Molly's sister, and she showed a lot of character in that show, and Phoebe was the young sister that needed to grow up, and you saw that growing, following up through the seasons. So I modeled my characters based on that. So the story moved on where they joined forces with a demigod, and their powers increased, and they followed this destiny where one was going to be good, one's going to be evil, and it got so big and so grand that I lost touch with the personal story where I started. So I said to myself, all right, I got to make a decision. Do I make a story based on these two characters, or do I make this adventure story where more and more characters are being added because I'm adding new abilities and so forth like every day. So I decided to focus on the two sisters, keep it in a modern world, and they weren't witches anymore, by the way. They were just people that came from money. They had family issues. And the situation was that Lauren was the elderly sister, She's someone that was smart, savvy. She had business sense to the point where she would know your weaknesses and strengths and use it accordingly. So she's someone that you wanted to be on your side. And the younger sister would be the one that's the social butterfly. It's the one that you'd love to be around and hang out with. And she would travel the world and things of that nature. So I liked that story much better because it was easier to write. And that was actually my story that I actually completed. So it was really a great feeling to complete that. And after several versions of writing, I finally had this one perfect version. And after seeing several agents or trying to get an agent, that said to me, all right, something's not working. So I took a step back and I said, all right, what's wrong with this version? And after being honest with myself, I saw that there was a point of view issue where I loved going from one point of view to another because I just wanted to just paint this picture of what's the world like for Lauren versus Kate. And the problem was that you didn't know, as a reader, whose shoes you were going to be in the next chapter. And another thing was I started to slip in these little hints of a secret society that Lauren was part of, but there was no real payoff because my idea was to create a second book that was really going to really describe that. But I said to myself, I'm a new writer, and that's the last thing I want to do is to upset readers that I want to try to build a base on. So I had to make a choice. Right? Do I go to a direction of make this book all action and just no secrets, just here's everything up front, and make it a fun read, or ask for some help because I don't know what I'm doing. And I tried to go to the all action route, and I was thinking make it like setting in Russia, involve the Russian mafia, and I actually did a lot of research, but I saw the direction it was going, and I didn't think it was in line with my initial ideas. So I decided to seek some help, and that's where a lot of good things were starting to happen, where a lot of people helped me. I was introduced to an online class where I was shown a lot of great things in regards to structure. Three key things in particular. First of all, write what you know and love. And I love to write anything in regards to action and with the balance of emotion. So that was just a great thing for me to realize is to don't go overboard and just keep it simple. Secondly, the structure, like a three-act play. First act is just the introduction, hook the reader. Second is to build momentum, introduce the plot, introduce the struggles that the character goes through, and third is to have the story complete, no questions to be left when the story is done. So I needed to be told that as a fresh reminder. And thirdly, the plot versus story. In that I needed to be told over and over again that there's a difference between telling a story, it's showing atmosphere, and the good stuff, as I call it, as far as the action and things like that, and the balance between them. Because sometimes I get overboard with action. I just like to have things explode all over the place. But if there's no emotional impact, what's the point? So that was something that really grounded me. And another thing was just like a point of view. It was great practice in seeing what's the difference between third and first point of view. So that was just a good thing to go through. And secondly, workshops. The Fairfield County Writers Group did a lot of workshops at the time with Kate and Justin in regards to imagination, creativity, world building. So I learned a lot from those workshops. And just being around other writers really helped because it helped bounce some ideas, learn from their experiences, and just seeing what other people are doing just really helped a lot. Just for example, and I don't recall her name, but a young lady in our group during a break came back with a pamphlet, and it was from New York, and she said she was going to use it for one of her stories as a resource. And lo and behold, my story is set in New York, and I said to myself, that's perfect. And I actually just wanted to show you guys. I actually brought it, for example. That I marked that bad boy up because it was a great tool just to show where all my characters were and in relations to if they travel to see each other, what's traffic like? Are they going to be upset when they see each other? Time and day, so things like that I factored in. So that was just a great tool to use.
Out of curiosity,
yeah.
How many drafts or versions did you actually go through that you're willing to admit to? Because we all have a few hidden editions or drafts that we don't admit
to. For this current book, is that his question, or are all versions included?
For the one you've published.
Okay. At least a good solid 3 revisions. And the one thing that I had to just keep in mind was to minimize the fluff. So that's the one thing I learned in the online class and in the workshops is that readers are smart. I don't need to spoon feed them all the details. People could imagine New York by if you just describe the simple things in New York, people can paint a picture from everything else of how great the streets are, or whatever the case may be. And also, I learned a term about proactive learning, where if I paint a picture or give them a term in a story, the readers, if I do a good job, will want to learn more about it on their own ends. One example, a term I use is Ubuntu, where one of my main character, DeAndre, obtains help from people that he's helped in Africa. Ubuntu is a term about brotherhood and community. The thing about Ubuntu is that the folks that he's helped use that term in a twisted manner. So when people want to use their time to look up that term, see speeches about Ubuntu and compare it to what I wrote about, they're going to be pleasantly surprised to see how different, what Ubuntu really means versus, the usage of Ubuntu in my book. That's going to be like a fun surprise on their end.
Very sneaky.
Well.
I'd like to dig into question number 2 of, did you learn something you didn't know about writing before? With the first sub-bullet being, agents are harder to get than advertised. You don't say.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, they're tough. So when the second revision, or I guess the second version of the book, where it was that modern day setting with the 2 sisters, it was me learning that when you set yourself up to try to advertise yourself, you do the research and you find what agents will speak to your genre that you're writing, that you understand that they have several other people doing the same, so that the timing is going to be a few weeks to a month. But you still have hopes and aspirations, whatever the case is, and you try to be clever as possible. Your career letter to be different, whatever the case is. But it still stings when you still get that no. It still stings when you don't even get a response back. So you get to learn that it is a business, that your career letter is just really a resume, and it helps that if you have an experience, background in writing, that if you've sold things before, obviously that's going to help your chances. And unfortunately, in my case, that wasn't the case. I've written short stories and post them online. I've gotten a lot of people that said, enjoy your writing, please keep writing. But it's very different when you're trying to tell someone that you're a good writer, and when they ask you, have you sold anything and made money? Because that's really a different mindset. Because it's really tough to say that you have good writing, but you have to put proof behind that statement. So that's where I had talks with people and say, all right, self-publishing is the direction that you need to take, because that's where opportunity is to prove that, and if anything, to yourself that you can make it, and you can build a reader base. The thing is just a learning curve, especially or obviously when you're new, that you don't understand the cost or things like that until you ask the right questions or you just go through it. And for me, I had to create an Excel sheet with all those costs, and that Excel sheet and it's still constantly changing and evolving, because I didn't know the difference between a copyright and ISBN. I thought those were the same thing. No. So little things like that, you just learn and you adjust accordingly.
Yeah, the copyright is easy to have. The ISBN is a little trickier. And a little more expensive.
Yeah, jeez. No comment. But I think the one thing that, in regards to marketing, is that the change of mindset from a short story and a book is where I like there's a term that I use in business, room to tune, where a short story I would write and just have a great idea, and I would edit it and just post it and just leave it there and just have comments, and I would if people would like it, I would write maybe an additional chapter, whatever the case is, but I'd always just leave it and post it, and hey, that's great, I did it, yay. But with a book, it's an ongoing thing that you just constantly have to touch base on. How's your number of sales this month? If it's up, great. If it's plateauing, you need to just check to see if you need to adjust your marketing style. If it's not moving at all, then you need to obviously talk to people to say, all right, what can I do to increase my sales? And if the reviews are saying things about your book, you need to watch it, because that's affects not just your sales, but your name as well. So if one person is saying something, take it with a grain of salt. But if 10 people are saying something, then you need to take appropriate action. So that's just another thing that I am learning to deal with.
Yeah, it's kind of a full-time job within itself, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All part of the fun.
True. So how about question number 3? How does it feel to be a self-published writer now?
Yay! I need lots of hugs. That's what I need. The support system.
I think all self-published writers need hugs.
Amen to that. No, it really feels great to be an accomplished writer. Just to see something that you had an idea on, you put time and effort, and you actually see it done and accomplished. And it feels great. You suddenly find yourself in a better mood. When you're writing, it's really hard, and you have to deal with the struggles, and there's doubts you have to fight with, like where the bad days are, I don't know if I'm going to make it, I should probably quit, and things like that. When you finally see it done and it's in Amazon, people are buying it, you get a lot of good moments where you high-five yourself, and people are saying, I love this character, and XYZ. Those are like great moments.
Yeah, it's a long, hard road to get there, but
yeah,
I think it's worth the payoff.
Absolutely.
How about question 4? Which
How about it? I'm being a smart guy.
Which character from your book do you like the most and why? And how about the least and why?
Well, I'm going to be a little cliche.
It's like choosing children.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to be a little cliche right now. I'm going to say, like, in general, I love them all. How about that? It's my
how about when they're not listening?
You kids. No, I mean, like anything, like if you write something, like you want to have obviously like what you're writing. Even when good or bad, if it's interesting, it keeps you going. Um, so even when the villain is being written, like if it's someone that grabs your attention, it's like, oh my God, I can't wait for this guy to get his, or whatever the case is. If it grabs your attention, that's awesome. I know DeAndre, the main character. I could imagine what a reader would go through, where they think at first he's a cold-hearted killer, or didn't know how to feel about him. But as the story progresses, they see that he's not one-dimensional. That he does have stresses and doubts, and whatever the case is, in his life. So when they start to see that, I can foresee them, changing their opinion and roll their eyes when he's being a wise guy, and feel some empathy for him when he's going through some emotional issues. But to answer your question, and if there's $1 million put in front of me, say pick one person now, I'll say this: I enjoy anything that involves Nia, his sister, because she really owns a lot of any parts that she's written in, especially interactions with her brother, because they have this great banter back and forth. And the moral set that they have is, I kind of like put them as sort of a Superman and Batman moral mindset. Now, obviously, without the powers, because that'd be kind of awesome, actually. But no, with Mia, she had the upbringing where she's seen nothing but good. Where their parents, they've made up, they have no issues, they go to church, they volunteer. So she's seen nothing but the good side in life. Where DeAndre, he's seen them have their issues. They argue. He was the little bad kid, so he's up to shenanigans, which is a problem for his father, who was a police officer. So he would butt heads with him often. So their difference in upbringing often came up and comes up in the book. So those were always fun things to bring up and read as a reader. And also just, again, brother and sister banter, it's always fun to write, because it's that fun balance of nothing too cheeky, nothing too wild. It's just, brother and sister shenanigans, as I call it. For example, while they're in hiding, his friend Miguel is giving him a code to say, basically, you need to check someone out. Could be trouble. And he explains, Nia what's happening, and they have arguments. And before he leaves, Nia being Nia says, all right, why don't I have a code? So he says, fine. You want a code? Wait by the pool. That's your code. And she says, well, what does that mean? And he says, it means stay in the damn house. And he leaves. So, it's just like that kind of banter that makes you smile and says, yeah, they're silly. So, fun banter like that I write that makes, I imagine will make the reader smile.
Nice. Are there any situations and or characters you can identify with? If so, how?
Yeah, I love how you're reading this, by the way, Charles, to make it so dramatic. How? No, I'm teasing.
We kind of cue in the dramatic music in the background in post. So
nice.
It just feels a little awkward right now. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Calvin fixes everything in post. He's good with that.
Okay. No pressure, Cal.
It's all good.
I wrote actually DeAndre to be the guy outside looking in as he works for the mafia, because that's how I felt working in business. In that, I don't know if anyone can relate that in situations where you're working in the office and there's a meeting going on because people have been in one particular office, your supervisor, head supervisor, or whatever the case is, and they've been there for 30 minutes, and all of a sudden you're called in without warning, and they ask you about X, Y, Z, or whatever situation, and you're just so happy to be on top of it, but they don't give you any context on why they're asking. They said, okay, good, thank you, and you can leave. And experience tells you not
That
to
never
ask.
happens in the business world.
Mm-hmm. And it's not explained to you why you're asked that question until there's an announcement or something like 2 weeks later. That same thing that you were mentioning, there's something happening with that. This is big decision, and you're like, oh, that's why they asked me. So, I could have written DeAndre to be someone that rose up in the ranks in Italian mafia and earn his place in their ranks, but I made him to be a guy that's smart and witty, and so I wanted him to bounce against situations where he's not in the know, that he's caught off guard in some situations, that there are things above and beyond him. So how do you deal with situations like that? And I think that's always a better read. So that's what I wrote.
Nice.
Thank you.
I lost my place. Where were we?
You're praising me and you're saying that you're gonna buy my book.
Everyone buy this book.
Yes. Family Business on Amazon. There we go.
Yes, the link to the book is in our show notes on fcwriters.com under episode 14. Buy it now.
There we go.
Or else.
Wait. I'm kind of ahead of the curve, actually.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I hit the order button around question 2.
That's what I'm talking about.
I think we were up to question 6.
Okay.
What major emotion should the story evoke in the reader, or that you hope is evoked within the reader?
I hope a lot of it will be fun and funny, because I made a lot of attempts of humor, especially interactions with DeAndre and Nia. But I feel like a lot of awesome moments because of the action elements that I put. So, because again, that balance between plot and story, have things that drive a really good plot, but really paint a picture to really drive the elements around it. So, I really hope that people find that they find that the actions that happen in between characters really have a great impact because they have a bond with XYZ person, because they love him and her because of them being sassy or really being a good solid character, because there's the strong silent type. Miguel was one person that people have told me that they've liked, because he's still the strong, big silent type, but when he has a comment, it's straight to the point. Truth and honest. So he's one of these guys that you just love to be friends with. So comments like that I just love to hear.
Nice. Next one.
Sure.
At what point in the book did you realize that you liked it or not? What helped you make this decision? So basically, when did you actually like the story enough to keep it rolling rather than just let it sit on a shelf?
Yeah, just flip some tables, enough of this.
We're writers, we've all had that moment.
When I saw the interactions between Nia and DeAndre, I said, this book is going to work, because it was on the basis of realism, and I grounded Nia based on my relationship with my sister. Nia is nowhere near my sister, just to say that on the record. But I use that my history with my sister and feelings, things like that, so that the interactions they have is real. That you feel that they've had a past and they do care for each other. So that nothing's too tongue-in-cheek. So when things are emotional, it's not like, all right, whatever, guys. And when they're arguing, it's not too wild and over the top that you kind of like, all right, sure, I don't believe that. So I think that everything's in the realm of realism.
So it's more believable than tropey.
Yeah. Wow, good reference. Wow.
Let's see, where were we? Who taught you the most important thing, and how do you use this knowledge? That is an incredibly vague question.
Yeah, yeah. I like to think that God's my best inspiration for basically just for that inspiration and motivation. God's like my muse by giving me the right people in my life, family, friends, writing groups and things like that. So I'm really grateful for people that's really helped me in my writing career, especially in just actually taking the time to read my stories and or help answer my questions, because that's how I grow as a writer. Especially the ones that have taken the time to say, you need help with this, that, and the other, but your core story is awesome, your character's awesome. You keep writing because you don't have a future in this. And days where you beat yourself up and you hear stuff like that, it really keeps you going. So that within itself is a blessing. So get positive people in your life, that says things like that. It's just a great thing.
Yeah, constructive criticism is definitely very helpful during the writing, revision, and editing process.
Oh yeah.
The non-constructive criticism can
go
screw itself.
Yeah.
Ooh, another multi-point question.
Yep.
Which kind of ties into the previous one. What is the hardest lesson or newest lesson you're going through? Which could be two entirely different things, really. Hardest and newest.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I apologize then for that question. Really, the newest and hardest question or issue I have is really marketing. It's like anything else I'm going through right now, is a learning curve, and marketing is not as easy as point A to point B, point C as I hoped. So it's one of these things where you have to learn that you have to find venues, you got to talk to people, but you understand that there's going to be delays, going to be issues where I don't know anything as far as so many numbers of websites or how to create websites, so I got to be dependent on talking to people and working around their schedules. That if I do things by myself, that not everything's going to be as pretty as I would like it to be in my head. And yeah, I said pretty. Deal with it. And things like that. It comes to an example where I had issues with my book cover where I really wanted to have someone in a week. I wanted to pick someone like, you're my book cover artist, and let's get it done, and be finished in the week after. And it's not that simple. You have to find the right person, make sure they're available, see what they're able and capable of doing. That I realize there's a difference between cover artist and graphic artist. That budgets are what they charge ranges a lot, and my budget wasn't all that grand. So there was that learning curve that I deal with. Just that one example. But it goes to show that to use an example from Batman movies, why do we fall? That we learn how to rise again. You deal with issues, you struggle, you find your other options, and you just move forward. So that when other issues arise, you know how to address them a little better, more efficiently, whatever the case is.
And even within the Batman-related universe, you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
You need third-party help to provide all the fancy gadgets and figure things out.
If I could market with fancy gadgets, that would be fantastic.
That would make things a lot more entertaining.
Oh my god. Don't get me started.
Well, it is Batman. It wouldn't surprise me if he had some sort of bat gadget for marketing and publishing a book.
You know, that could be a yeah.
If he has shark bug spray, then who the heck knows?
You know what? That's fair. I don't know. This could be a next podcast conversation. You never know. If Batman went into publishing, you know, how would he do it? I don't know.
Probably as Bruce Wayne, since he has enough money to just buy whatever publishing company he wants.
Okay, so so never mind that.
So much for next episode.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Oops. So all in all, how long did it actually take to get from this is a fun idea, I should actually write about this, to oh hey, it's published?
Well, for this version, I really had to really think about what direction I had to take. And after the online classes and the workshops, it started from January on finally getting an idea of what I wanted to go as far as the direction. And it's just writing it down and just go for it and having a plan. And just revision. But you know, the best thing to have is, you know, that dream of, you know, seeing that end result. And you know, for me, that was just one of many things that I said to myself, I want to see happen. So you know, having that goal was my motivation. But also to, you know, I'm a fan of, you know, Jon Stewart and Steven Spielberg, and they interview you know, authors. So I said to myself, that's my goal in a couple of years, to be that famous that I'm on their show. I want to say to them that, you know, you're my motivation to keep writing. I practiced interviewing with you, sir, and I mean it. And you know, assuming I'm not geeking out at the time. So and
I know I would be.
Yeah. Okay. I'll be taking pictures like, hey, right here. You know, so that, and you know, obviously being on Oprah's top 10 list is my ultimate goal. So that's, you know, maybe 5 years from now. Never know. So, you know,
it's a fair enough timeline to work your way up.
That'd be nice. So it's just ultimately just finding your motivation, something that will anchor you to keep you motivated, so that you can just see through the fog of doubt and whatever the case is, so that you can see your way to the end goal.
Out of curiosity, do any of my co-hosts have any follow-up questions to add on? Yes, no, maybe? Or are we
really.
all still in awe of Tom's awesomeness?
Stunned silence.
Between that and all the good basics have been covered.
I was just going to say, if you're going to ask questions, make them easy. That's all.
Damn.
What is the square root of pi to the 100th decimal?
Hey, what's with that time? I gotta. Okay. Oh, you guys.
Well, we do have 2 easy questions for you left on the list then. Where can we obtain a copy of your book?
You can go on Amazon and type in either via my name or type in family business, and it'll be there. Or you can go to my fan page on Facebook for family business, and you can find it right there. And there'll be links for the Amazon link as well. But I believe, Charles, you said you'll provide both links during or after this podcast.
Yep, both links are posted in the show notes on fcwriters.com under this episode's post.
So, yeah.
You know, right after, since you mentioned asking questions, 2 actually popped up in my head, if you don't mind me asking.
Sure.
They're very simple questions. Like,
all right, that's okay then.
One, okay. What is your ideal writing location?
Okay. I like to. It sounds typical, but like it's either going to be in a coffee shop, listening to music, somewhere like isolated or like in my room, listening to music. So those are like usually my places. The situation being is that I like to be in a place where I like to be in control of my atmosphere, just listening to music, or if I need to I need to have quick access to food. Obviously somewhere a little public that it's just a quick 2 seconds to grab some food or whatever. But no,
To be
I like.
fair, there's a lot of libraries that have cafes in them now, so you can get the best of both worlds.
Oh, I like it. But there's always something nice about being comfortable at home. That end, I have these weird times where I get inspired for an idea, like really late at night. So sometimes, like, if I have an idea, I cannot go to sleep. So I have to get up, turn my laptop, write the idea down, or put it on my cell phone, or just type it out, because otherwise the story plays out in my head over and over and over again like a movie, and I have to like type it out. So that's why usually home is the safe place, because otherwise, I hate to be kicked out, out of coffee houses and like, wait, what were sentence? So, yeah.
All right. You actually answered part of what I was going to ask for question 2, which was going to be, what are your idea, like, what tools do you use for writing? Like, what is your writing gear? Like your hardware?
Really, it's
Like
just I got my trusty headphones, listen to all my music. Actually, if it's fair to say, I don't really have hardware, but more software. I just go to like YouTube, listen to music, and whatever I write, I like to use the theme of what I write for to match with the music. I like to be in the moment. So like for me, if it's romance, I have to listen to soft music, soft rock, whatever the case is. If it's an action theme music, I listen to like hard rock, whatever the case is. So because I like to be in the moment, I like to paint that picture in my head and experience what the characters are going through. Are their hearts pumping? Are they excited? Are they anxious? Because like for me, every time I write, it's like I'm playing a movie in my head. So all I gotta do is just type it out. So I always just have my headphones rocking. So you see me like anxiously typing with the headphones on. I'm in the moment. I'm in the zone, as you call it.
Okay. Like I wanted to pick your brain. Like, I think the reason I asked question number 2 was I wanted to see like what tools do you have for like having easy access to try to like jot your idea down, whether it be your laptop or like you said your cell phone, things like that.
Yeah. Then that's fair. Memo pad is what I use for my on my cell phone, because I tried different means to jot down ideas, paper and pen, but unfortunately the issue is that it's hard to do that while you're driving. Yeah, yeah. Because that sometimes I get ideas then, like really now, in cases like that. So I practice, when I get an idea, just keep it in my head, red lights, text really fast, and or when I finally end at my destination, I type really fast before going to work, whatever the case is. So that's really just the one thing I really use. Nothing too fancy. The really important thing is just to make sure I get the idea down, and that's really important.
All right, cool. All right, that covers my main questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
Actually came up with a question myself.
Okay.
Hopefully it's not too difficult.
Oh, I already don't like it. But no. Go ahead.
When writing, were there any points where a scene or something you were writing just kind of completely overwhelmed your mind, and what did you do to kind of calm yourself down, clear your head?
Like overwhelmed, just to ask, like it was too emotional or just like
Like just too many thoughts in your head all at once, and you couldn't really space out what you were
uh,
trying to get on paper.
that's a good question. And now you're gonna make me think. Damn you. No, no. I think one of the things that I had to balance was DeAndre's emotional journey throughout the book, and I had to. And this was actually something that during the editing stage was pointed out, what to show and what not to show. And with his friendship with Miguel, like he would, other versions would go to different places because what I wanted to do was try to show that he was, social and they were friends and they hanged out and things like that. But some things weren't needed. So I was trying to figure out how do I show that they were friends, and so that that I could justify that friendship, their bonds, that Miguel would have his back through the hard times and things like that. So that was like things like that I had to revamp certain chapters and create new situations so that I can show that friendship and bonds and things like that. So I don't know if that's the example that you were looking for, but I mean that was one situation that I really had to rack my brain to really show a situation.
Yeah, I think that's a good example. Yeah.
Like if you wanted like something like a more example, like do you want to like give me an example if you were looking for something more
Well,
emotional
I
aspect
know
or
when I'm writing, I get to a scene and I'm like, in advance, I'm like, I know I want to do this, but then as I'm writing it, my brain's like, wait a minute, maybe you should do this. Or no, wait, do this. No, do this. No, do this.
oh, actually, you know what? Yeah, you actually sparked my memory. There was moments where I was thinking when DeAndre is in the moment where he knows he's in trouble, and he has this window of opportunity to make a decision. I initially had ideas of making it into this big dynamic situation where he's finding his way out, and I wanted this big introduction of like action, like immediately, like literally, like he opens the elevator or waits in front of elevators, and elevator doors open, and boom, hitmen come out, and they start swinging, and guns blazing, and but in the context of things, it sort of like comes from nowhere, and it kind of like you would, as a reader, be like, "What the hell is this?" And so my brain is saying, all right, maybe you should try to involve this person as then backup, and then it made me think, well, he has allies, that makes sense, but then you're making this more into an action film version of a book, if that's a fair description. So my brain was trying to say, okay, you're trying to show urgency, but you're making this into like a more action sense. Maybe just them running away makes more sense, or just being scared, or whatever the case is. So just have them argue and panic and things like that. So that was like that argument with my brain, like just saying, hey, we're in trouble, let's get the hell out of here. But my brain was still always have action in head. Yeah, but it'd be really cool if they shot stuff. So, so yeah, that was like that fun argument I had at that moment. So I don't know if that's a better example.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Would you be up for one more question?
Let's do it.
What was it like working with a third-party service for the editing process? Like actually having an editor go over it professionally and providing feedback?
No, it was good, actually, because what I needed was just someone to bounce my story against, and just to make sure that what I wrote was exactly what I wanted, a good balance of plot and story. The structure made sense, things like of that nature. So I appreciate anyone that takes the time to look over my story and help edit it. So that's anyone that takes the time to do that. Off the bat, I appreciate. So I'm really humble and generous in that regards. So that's my answer. That's good.
Cool. Anyone have anything else to say or ask or comment on before we migrate into the next segment?
I'm good.
I think I'm good.
Any last comments you'd like to toss in, Tom?
Buy my book. No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. That was a fun interview.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. Ditto.
And now it is time for the What Have You Been Reading and or Writing segment for the week. And of course, I always have to actually ask the question, have people been reading and or writing this week?
I've been writing.
Hooray!
Writing, yes. Reading, no.
You get bonus points for actually writing, though, being the musician and all.
Yeah, there's been a couple of songs I've been trying to jumble some sentences for.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've got a whole ton of songs that just don't have lyrics to them, and I'm desperately trying to do something about that.
How has that been going?
Not too bad. There's one song I'm actually making some headway on. If I could get just a little bit more time to just sit down and really get all the wandering sentences around and just gather them up and get them to make sense, I could have a coherent song within the next maybe 2 weeks.
I don't think free time is allowed, though.
It really isn't. That's how I feel anyway.
Well,
But, go ahead.
it's okay to have free time because your brain needs a timeout, and maybe you'll find like a really cool lyric or beat or something from nowhere. You'll apply it to your song. So nothing wrong with that.
You do raise a good point. I was actually in Manhattan on Friday to pick up my my various goodies for my 5K race yesterday, and I sat down to grab something to eat, and just having that time to just sit and chill out gave my brain enough rest to come up with some more words for one of my songs. So free time definitely is a good thing. I think more than anything, you just have to find time to make free time. Clear out your schedule to make some free time. It really is definitely worth it.
Hopefully there weren't too many grumpy commuters in Manhattan causing you trouble.
Nope, I was in a nice small little ramen shop, enjoying a nice giant bowl of ramen.
I am jealously jealous.
I remember actually the picture you posted of that.
Yes. I'll have to take you to that ramen shop one of these days. It's really nice.
Sadly, there are no good ramen shops in my area. We have some decent, dirty Chinese places, but that's it.
Yeah, I think that's the same we got all the way out here. Ramen? You picked that up in a plastic packet in the grocery store.
for 25 cents.
But yes, I'll take you to that place sometime soon. And they have sushi too.
Is that the same ramen place you took me to once?
No, different place.
I'm intrigued. Where were we before ramen distractions?
What we're reading and things like that.
Who's been writing?
I've been writing.
Are you allowed to talk about what you have bbeen writing, or is it for the Not Suitable for Writers podcast? Because with you, you never know.
I actually wrote. I actually spent a good 4 hours yesterday writing 9 pages.
Nice.
Oh, how my hand hurt after that. About halfway through, it's like, no more! And I said, yes, more. Endured the pain.
You cannot has rest.
You'll rest when you're dead. But I don't want to talk about what I wrote yesterday.
Because NSFW or because spoilers? Or both?
A little bit of both.
Fair enough.
I did on the show notes post, even that had a spoiler in it, but...
Well, the first sentence, I presume, was not overly spoilery that you put in there.
No. The first sentence of Chapter 18 is not overly spoilery, but it just doesn't make any sense out of context either. But his first sentences are like that, huh? That's what pulls you in. The first sentence of the chapter is, despite his calm demeanor, the past few days had been a bit rough for Aiden.
Poor Aiden.
He seems to be having a lot of those.
You gotta knock him down before you can bring him back up.
There you go.
Well, you gotta let him back up before you knock him down again.
Yeah, well, same thing. As soon as they stand up, you sweep their legs out from underneath them again. I've been doing that a lot.
Oh my god.
I actually remember writing half a chapter, or an entire chapter was spent building a character up only so I could knock her down at the end. Look, everything's nice, everything's happy, everything's going good, and oh, bad news.
We writers are horrible, horrible people to our characters.
Yes.
And how?
I haven't actually been managing that much writing this week. Mainly because I've been just focusing on various deadlines for work while being stuck at home because Con Ed and Metro North shenanigans.
Wow, God, what a mess that was.
I can only imagine how they're going to try and sort that out.
Supposedly, everything should be close to normal by tomorrow, so they say.
Yeah, we'll see. They also claim they're going to be giving either a credit or some sort of reimbursement to weekly and monthly commuters. Which means fare hikes are in the impending future, I'm sure.
Yay!
But I have been reading because my 3-hour commute was 5.5 hours on Monday. Yay!
Good heavens.
Yeah. But I managed to read an entire book in one day.
Nice.
It's been in my Kindle for way too long. I don't actually know how long, and I don't want to admit it either. Hidden Worlds by Kit Campbell, our favorite editor.
Yay. Shout out to Kit.
The teaser for that was, the greatest part of belonging to the Spork Room, a magical writing community, is the door, through which all stories ever written and yet to be written come to life. There is only one rule. Always tell someone before you go through. But Marjorie is in a tough place in her story, and she really needs to know how this scene goes. No one's around. Surely it won't hurt anything to go in by herself for just a few minutes. dot dot dot.
Oh dear.
Yeah, multiple shenanigans ensued. And you'll have to purchase the book to find out what actually happens, if it all ends happily or not. That was actually an incredibly entertaining read. And it really made me think about what would writers do if they actually had the technology or magical abilities to actually interact with their characters in real time to try and figure out a scene.
I imagine a lot of arguments and bad blood and various beefs between the author and their characters.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it would just be arguing, maybe some fists flying, and in some cases, some NSFW situations.
I'm thinking maybe some guilt too. Kind of things that we put our characters through, and they'll probably make you feel like dirt by saying like, "Why would you do this to us? Why?" You know, so.
Considering it also does stories that have yet to be written, what happens if you do a Doctor Who scenario of you're meeting a character you haven't even created yet, but you've done something horrible to them and they hate you for it, but you don't know what you did?
How could you do that to me? I don't know what I did yet.
Who are you?
If you keep yelling at me, I'll figure out something mean to do to you, and then you'll hate me for a reason.
And the cycle is complete.
Theoretically, now that trains are somewhat back to normal, at least as normal as the trains are, I can start going through some other books for the week. I have, I think, still about 75 or so in my pile to be read, not counting whatever the hell's in my Kindle.
That's a good number. That's a good
And
number.
of course, when November comes around, all bets are off. Good Lord, Nano is in 3 weeks. God help us all.
I've actually started working on that.
God help this podcast during Nano.
Considering how many of us are participating in it this year.
I am now, despite saying I wasn't going to.
Hooray!
Is Justin taking part?
I believe so.
Hmm.
And presumably Ed will be as well.
I don't know. Yes. Yes.
How much I have to work.
Yeah, depending on
Ed
work.
is still alive.
Yes.
I am. I'm sorry. I'm just not sociable.
He was just too short. We didn't see him beforehand.
Shut up! Oh,
Wow.
One of these
That's what
days
you
I'll
get for not being on the podcast.
I'm not sociable! It's my first day off in like forever. Just.
True. He's been working a lot.
Fair enough.
One of these days I'll participate in Nano. Oh, that is when I have time to do something other than coding and fixing other people's websites and trying to decipher a database that my job has forced me to figure out.
Ooh, you get a database of doom.
Oh yeah.
Aren't they fun?
Especially when it's built from scratch from a third party.
Ooh.
And is the original coder available to talk to?
Well, thankfully, there's the company that built this database is going to actually help.
Oh,
Hooray.
so it could be worse. They
So
didn't throw you random code and say, fix it.
No, but my company was like, "Hey, Calvin, you're the tech guy. You're gonna help us start this database."
Which you should
Okay.
have replied, okay, are you giving me a raise? No? Then no, I'm not helping you decipher this database.
Okay, to be fair, allegedly they are. Allegedly.
Allegedly. It's not the first time they were allegedly going to give you a raise, though, wasn't it? Isn't it?
No, it's the fact that they'll give me a raise and not tell me.
Oh, didn't you notice? We're giving you more money. Oh, on a random note, as I know some of the viewers who enjoy or are familiar with arguing with your characters might find enjoyable. I've been rewatching The X-Files, and there's an episode I think all writers should watch. The X-Files, Season 6, Episode 18, Milagro. It's about a writer whose character becomes a little more real than he ever intended him to be. There's a particularly interesting scene near the end when the character shows up in the writer's apartment to tell him how to end his novel.
Kind of sounds like a Stranger Than Fiction plot.
It was pretty good, so I recommend any writers may enjoy reading it, or perhaps not, considering it may invoke nightmares.
I've actually come across a new. This is somewhat writing related. I have me a new writing implement. If
Do
you
know?
can tell from the see it in the background here.
I'll show you a photo of it.
I has a MacBook now. Oh, so sweet. Yeah, it's been a bit of a fixer-upper, but the original trackpad was shot completely to hell, and so was the battery.
Ooh.
Well, actually, the battery is what caused the trackpad to break.
How did they manage that?
The battery overheated and catastrophically expanded.
Ooh,
That'll do it.
Wow.
that takes a bit of talent to be able to pull off, I would think.
Apparently, it happens. It's happened to a lot of these, like 09, 2010 MacBook Pros, the early unibodies.
Makes me wonder which one I have. Because I'm running on a MacBook Pro right now.
I could probably help you figure that out after the podcast. I've learned a lot in the past week about Macs.
Only thing I've done to this thing is break the Wi-Fi card twice.
How on earth did you manage that?
By commuting with it. Apparently just by carrying it in a bag, putting it on desks every once in a while. The first Wi-Fi card blew. Waited a whole week for them to replace it. And then the second one got knocked loose at some point or another. So maybe one out of every 10 times it'll actually register that there is a card in there. But 9 out of 10 times, nope, no hardware found. So now I just plug it into the Ethernet without question. Because it's not worth the trouble of sending it back in for another week just to knock loose another card. Give it another year or two and I'll be due for an upgrade anyway.
Thankfully, I have to know how to avoid Apple Care altogether. I'm not even sure if they'd bother even looking at that one.
Well, just buy the new one.
If they can make it affordable, I would.
Yeah, that's not likely going to happen
Go up
anytime
to the
soon.
Apple Store with that thing. Oh, would you like to upgrade to the MacBook Air?
Only if it's free.
The only thing I'm planning to upgrade to is the latest version of OS X whenever it decides to come out.
Eventually.
But in the meantime, I'm just happy to have a MacBook. I'm not a picky person. But I digress.
We all digress. It's a habit of ours.
It's a writer thing.
Mm. I think we got to the point where it's time for upcoming events.
Hooray!
We have a few. We have a regional event on October 12th, which is next Saturday, at the Trumbull Library in Trumbull, Connecticut. We're having a 3-hour write-in. This is the last local write-in before the Nano season, so basically the last off-season one for the year.
Dun, dun, dun.
I was going to go with hooray, but that works too.
For the impending joy of Nano.
Yeah, let's go with that. But to get you in the Nano mindset, we also have a workshop on surviving the novel writing process, which is going to be co-hosted with the Darien Library on October 27th. Oh, my show notes are out of date. That's not good. But yes, October 27th from 3 to 5 p.m., the Darien Library is going to be hosting our group to do a surviving the novel writing process. It's basically going to be a 1-hour-ish workshop in that time of actually creating a plot or expanding one you already have now with several various tips and tricks. It'll be run by Roman Godzich, and the other hour or so will just be kind of discussions on how to actually survive November while having life. Because most of us have full-time jobs or school or family or kids or other obligations, other groups, all of the above. It's hard to fit in writing on a regular basis. But hopefully this workshop will help you figure out a way of pulling it off. And we're also going to be doing a webinar version of this event if you are unable to make it to the live one. And that's still in the works, and it'll eventually be posted up on our YouTube page. Details on that will be forthcoming eventually. And I'm not even going to deal with the actual Nano event calendar, because that's just going to be crazy. Give us a few weeks. I'll just end up giving you a link to the calendar, and you can check it out. Leave it at that.
It's probably for the best.
Definitely for the best. I don't want to talk for half an hour of just various events going on, where and what's going on at each one. We are not an events podcast. We are a writers podcast. And as writers, it's time for writing prompts.
Hooray!
Yay, transitions. With every week, we provide new writing prompts for you via our Muse Food section on fcwriters.com. And the writing prompts for this week have been posted, so go to fcwriters.com, click on the Muse Food section, and check them out. Each week, we provide 10 one-liner writing prompts in order to get a story rolling. You can use the first sentence to see where your muse goes from there, or try tossing a one-liner in the middle of a piece already in the works. Stop laughing, you're distracting me.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to get through this spiel. Damn it. We also provide 10 one-worders, which are meant as more of a concept-driven inspiration. Try tossing one or two of these one-worders into a piece as an extra challenge. It is not necessary to use all of these prompts at once, or even any of them. They are meant as an extra resource for you to use when your muse is tired and cranky and there are deadlines to be made, or you just have some spare time to actually be writing. Let's see. Now you can go on and laugh and be silly.
Okay.
These are some good ones.
I don't even remember what's on there. All right.
The first one was what I was laughing at because of the possibilities.
It's a good one.
Would you care to roll through them?
First one. That was supposed to be my resting place.
Actually, hold on. We can screen share this, can't we?
Yes, we
For
can.
the viewers, screen share. That one. Start the screen share. There we go. Continue.
Let's see, we got, that was supposed to be my resting place. She controls more than just the air in your lungs. This place looks like a war zone where neither side won. I'd lie still if I were you. There's plenty of cause for concern with the sky on fire. You first. I like to be last.
Oh my.
I didn't realize how awkward that one was until I was writing it. And then I left it.
No two people ever have the same story about that night. I'm calling you out. Avoid the dark squares. Those are lava. That was my favorite. That was my favorite childhood game. Oh man, I still like to do that to this day.
Sounds like something I would say at the beginning of an encounter on D&D to my players. Like, oh, by the way, avoid the dark squares. Those are lava.
The
Thanks for
heck do you
telling us
mean
now.
to give us warning? We'd learn that the hard way.
Yeah.
Not my fault you lot are paranoid.
For good reason.
And finally, lend me your cannon, please.
You just keep thinking of Ed for that one.
What?
The last one-liner. Lend me your cannon, please.
Who needs to lend anybody a can? I can make my own.
Other kind of cannon.
I can just see Armstrong butting in and lending him one whether he wants one or not.
Our one-worders for this week are trauma, order, commander, sparse, greetings, range, transport, nap, roots, and fracture.
Yes, listeners and viewers alike, make of those prompts as you will. And if you happen to write a short story or flash fiction piece utilizing any of these prompts, please send us a copy or send us the URL where we can view it. If it's under 5,000 words, we will review and potentially live read it in a future episode. But only if you let us know. So please go write something utilizing these prompts and send us an email about it. You can reach us at wordninja@fcwriters.com. And I think I have to come off of screen share to switch to the next part. There we go. Now, if the one-liners and worders aren't enough for you, we also have story dice prompts, which are somewhere farther down in the show notes. There they are. Now, the story dice, we utilize Rory's Story Cubes, which can be found at storycubes.com. We utilize the app version, which gives us the original set, the actions set, and the voyages set. And we just do a random combination for each week. Oh, Calvin already beat me to it. Now you can see him twice. Now, the main goal is to try and find a way to fit all 9 images into a story somehow. And half the fun is trying to actually interpret the images, because some of them are a little tricky to figure out just what they are, or what they are to you. Everyone has a different idea. For this week, the story cube images look to be a chest facing in the wrong direction, someone's eyeball, a very large keyhole, presumably a raven, or maybe a crow, or who knows what. Either the sunrise or sunset, or just a glowing sphere in a bowl, you never know. Someone a little concerned about a floating alarm clock above their head. A bridge over potentially troubled waters. Someone not exactly hitting a ball. And that one's kind of tiny on my screen. Zoom in. A midget shouting up to a giant. Does anyone have other interpretations for these?
I think yours are the best.
So yes, if you make a short piece out of these as well, or some combination between these and the one-liners, by all means, send us a copy and we will review it in a future episode. I really hope someone does this eventually, because I think it would be a lot of fun to see what people make of some of these writing prompts and story cube images. There's all sorts of plot fodder amongst all of that.
At the very least, they'd be incredibly entertaining.
Indeed. And I still hope that one of these days we can do a reading of some sort of like the Eye of Argon or an equivalent story that's just so hilariously bad we're not going to be able to do it seriously. So even if you make the story as ridiculous as you can possibly do, we'll still have fun with it. Okay, and with that, we're about ready to start wrapping up this episode, unless anyone has some end of the episode comments or anything else they'd like to cover. Yes, no, maybe?
Hope you're pre-planning for Nano.
Yeah, I think maybe next episode or the one after that we're gonna start digging into nano prep and figuring out how people are going to survive with some sort of insanity intact. Hopefully. No guarantees, though.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, unless Calvin had one last thing.
I
No.
heard what you did there. The level of insanity in that.
At this point, it is time to talk about sponsorships. If you enjoyed or appreciated any of the content in this episode or past episodes or future episodes, depending on when you're listening to this, we would appreciate your support. This is currently a privately funded, fan-driven podcast based off of full coverage writers. But if you would like to support us, you can go over to fcwriters.com, go to any of the Word Ninja podcast posts, there's one per episode, and there will be a PayPal donation link. We would be glad to have a donation of any amount, but for certain amounts, we love to give something back as appreciation. If you were to donate $1, say, we will give you a shout out. You can use this to promote your site, a social media account, your own podcast, or you can just say hello to us. We'll say hello back. If you up that to $5, you get to promote a talking point question on the show. So if there's something that you want us to banter about or dig into, for the price of a fancy coffee, you can get the entire crew talking. And if you go all out and donate $10, you get to sponsor an entire episode because you really love us and we're just that awesome. For $10, price of a fancy meal, or even not really that fancy of a meal nowadays, we'll praise you for 2 whole hours of podcasty goodness. Now, if you're not really up for that, you can just go to fcwriters.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and we have affiliate links for Amazon, CreateSpace, and Books A Million. So if you have a book or shiny bauble that you're in need of purchasing, or if you have a book of your own that you want to get self-published, utilize one of these 3 links and we get a small affiliate kickback, which goes directly back into website funding and all sorts of back-end shenanigans, basically to help keep this stuff rolling. And if you really, really love us and you think we're awesome, you can go to our store, fcwriters.com/store. It's that easy. And purchase a copy of the Word Ninja book. The Word Ninja book is over 100 articles on the craft of writing, from concept to creation, revision to publication. It covers it all, and we had approximately 6 authors contribute to the book, so it's not just one man's opinion, it's multiple people's opinions. Go take a look. Print copies are $15, while ebook copies are $10. And with that, it is time to round out this episode. It is time for attributions. And I'm going to roll down the line starting from Calvin.
All right. My name is Calvin Williams. Tech enthusiast, IT guy, bedroom musician, among other things. You can find me at, let's see, where do I start?
At the beginning.
The internet.
If you find any issues going on with the Full Coverage Writers website, you can find me at thewebmaster@fcwriters.com. You can go there and write me a nasty email to get me to fix the site.
Or if you really like him, send him an email saying, "This site is awesome, keep up the good work." Those are much more appreciated.
That too, yeah. You can find me over at the music website Riffraff, where I am the digital media editor. The website there is riffraff.net, riffraff.net. If you want to take a look at some of the many websites I've put together, the website is calvin.cwillia.ms. calvin.cwillia.ms. Basically, my full name and a fancy URL. My email address there is calvin@cwillia.ms. Excuse me. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ccwii, and on Tumblr at instacal.tumblr.com. The end.
Alright, let's break the laws of physics. Instead of going down the line, we skip over and go to Will.
Okay. All right. One of the best places to find my written work in progress is over at the official Tumblr page for it. My roommate's a stripper.tumblr.com. As insinuated earlier, it is often not safe for work, so keep that in mind, kiddies. Stay away if you're under 18. I have a personal Tumblr at darkhome.tumblr.com, also not safe for work. My Twitter handle is @WillGranville. I very rarely use that these days because reasons, I guess. And I also have an account on SoFurry, darkhome.sofurry.com. Again, not safe for work, and you'll probably need an account.
And rolling over to Tom. Who are you and where can we find you?
Well, that's a deep question. You just can't get into that. It's like at the end, it's like, who am I? You know, where are we? No.
What is your purpose?
Yeah. Wow. No. I am a writer, up and coming, and but I have had several experiences in writing short stories that you can find on fanfiction.net. Arthur name spelled Bourguit. You can find me in tweets and that same name. You can find me on Facebook. Again, I did say that I do a fan page for my book on their family business. So you can find updates as, you know, I will be posting definitely this link for this podcast, but also upcoming news for anything else that will I'll be joining or anything in that regards.
And my turn. I'm, of course, Charles, your instigator of literary insanity and all full coverage writer shenanigans. You can find all of our stuff over at fcwriters.com. And we also have various social media outlets via Tumblr at fcwordninja.tumblr.com. Over at Facebook, it's facebook.com/fullcoveragewriters. Our literary Twitter is at fcwordninja. And as always, you can email myself and the group over at wordninja@fcwriters.com. And with that, this episode is a wrap. Until next week, to all our listeners and viewers, get writing already.
Yes.
Focus on the two sisters. keep it in a modern world. And they weren't witches anymore, by the way. They were just people that came from money. They had family issues. And the situation was that Lauren was the elderly sister. She's someone that was smart, savvy. She had business sense to the point where she would know your weaknesses and strengths and use it accordingly. So she's someone that you wanted to be on your side. And the younger sister would be the one that's the social butterfly. It's the one that you'd love to be around and hang out with. And she would travel the world and things of that nature. So I liked that story much better because it was easier to write. And that was actually my story that I actually completed. So it was really a great feeling to complete that. And after several versions of writing, I finally had this one perfect version. And after seeing several agents or trying to get an agent, that said to me, all right, something's not working. So I took a step back and I said, all right, what's wrong with this version? And after being honest with myself, I saw that there was a point of view issue where I loved going from one point of view to another because I just wanted to just paint this picture of what's the world like for Lauren versus Kate. And the problem was that you didn't know as a reader whose shoes you were going to be in the next chapter. And another thing was I started to slip in these little hints of a secret society that Lauren was part of, but there was no real payoff because my idea was to create a second book that was really going to really describe that. But I said to myself, I'm a new writer, and that's the last thing I want to do is to upset readers that I want to try to build a base on. So I had to make a choice. Right? Do I go to a direction of make this?
Good afternoon, ladies and menfolk, and welcome to episode 14 of the Word Ninja podcast. We're coming to you today for a multi-hour ramble of writers, surviving muses, battling writer's blocks, and encouraging writers to get writing already. You're joining us with our co-hosts, Calvin Williams.
Hello, everybody.
William Granville.
Hello, hello.
Your instigator of literary insanity, Charles Muir. And special, super awesome guest, Tom Bourguillon, that I can never pronounce properly.
That's fine. Tend to have a French accent, usually get it.
How do you pronounce it properly?
A Bourguillon.
I'm like 50% there.
There you go, yeah.
But yes, Tom is a recently published author. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, we thought we'd do something special for this episode, having a recently published author with us by actually doing an author highlights interview with him. So there will be no actual talking points this episode, just a going back and forth about Tom's writing and publishing process to kind of get an inside view of just what does it take to be a published author.
So basically, this podcast is all about you, Tom.
Damn right.
Episode 14, the Tom Cast.
Nice.
All right, to kick things off, let's see what our first question is while I bring up the show notes. Ooh, it's a long multi-one. Tell us about your past, present, and possible future relations to the ideas for your book. How did you get started? What took you to the next level? What did you believe when you started versus what you learned about that? And what do you know now that you didn't know then?
And take a breath.
Do you regret putting that many questions as just number one?
Yes. I do now. Book, all action, and just no secrets, just here's everything up front. And make it a fun read, or ask for some help because I don't know what I'm doing. And I tried to go to the all action route, and I was thinking make it like setting in Russia. involved the Russian mafia, and I actually did a lot of research, but I saw the direction it was going, and I didn't think it was in line with my initial ideas. So I decided to seek some help, and that's where a lot of good things were starting to happen, where a lot of people helped me. I was introduced to an online class where I was shown a lot of great things in regards to structure. Three key things in particular. First of all, write what you know and love. And I love to write anything in regards to action and with the balance of emotion. So that was just a great thing for me to realize, is to don't go overboard and just keep it simple. Secondly, the structure, like a three-act play. First act is just the introduction, hook the reader. Second is to build momentum, introduce the plot, introduce the struggles that the character goes through, and third is to have the story complete, no questions to be left when the story is done. So I needed to be told that as a fresh reminder. And thirdly, the plot versus story, in that I needed to be told over and over again that there's a difference between telling a story, it's showing atmosphere, and the good stuff, as I call it, as far as the action and things like that, and the balance between them. Because sometimes I get overboard with action. I just like to have things explode all over the place. But if there's no emotional impact, what's the point? So that was something that really grounded me. And another thing was just like a point of view. It was great practice in seeing what's the difference between third and first point of view. So that was just a good thing to go through. And secondly, workshops. The Fairfield County Writers Group did a lot of workshops at the time with Kate and Justin in regards to imagination, creativity, world building. So I learned a lot from those workshops. And just being around other writers really helped, because it helped bounce some ideas, learn from their experiences, and just seeing what other people are doing just really helped a lot. Just for example, and I don't recall her name, but a young lady in our group during a break came back with a pamphlet, and it was from New York, and she said she was going to use it for one of her stories as a resource. And lo and behold, my story is set in New York, and I said to myself, that's perfect. And I actually just wanted to show you guys. I actually brought it for example. That I marked that bad boy up because it was a great tool just to show where all my characters were, and in relations to if they travel to see each other, what's traffic like? Are they going to be upset when they see each other? Time and day. So things like that I factored in. So that was just a great tool to use.
Out of curiosity,
yeah.
How many drafts or versions did you actually go through that you're willing to admit to? Because we all have a few hidden editions or drafts that we don't admit
to. For this current book, is that this question, or all versions included?
For the one you've published.
Okay. At least a good solid 3 revisions. And the one thing that I had to just keep in mind was to minimize the fluff. So that's the one thing I learned in the online class and in the workshops, is that readers are smart. I don't need to spoon feed them all the details. People could imagine. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you again for having me on this podcast, and hopefully the opportunity presents itself, I'd like to join more. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, definitely.
Awesome.
So yeah, just to start this off, the initial idea being when I initially wanted to make a fantasy story. Years back, I was in a mood to read a lot of fantasy stories. So it was Halloween years back, and I read a story. It's a collection of short stories called Just One Sip. So it was just one of these collections where it's vampire stories living in Las Vegas, people living with zombies, and silly things like that. And in my ego, I said to myself, I can write something like this, and even better. So I said, let me create a world where magic exists and it's constant, and people draw magic from gods and demons. And I created characters that were based on my favorite two characters from. And I'm gonna kind of out myself. I guess I'm gonna decide to do it now. Charmed was the show that I did follow. My favorite two characters were Piper and Phoebe, and I kind of modeled my characters based on that because to me Piper was really cool, Mully's sister, and she showed a lot of character in that show. And Phoebe was the young sister that needed to grow up, and you saw that growing, following up through the seasons. So I modeled my characters based on that. So the story moved on where they joined forces with a demigod, and their powers increased, and they followed this destiny where one was going to be good, one's going to be evil, and it got so big and so grand that I lost touch with the personal story where I started. So I said to myself, all right, I got to make a decision. Do I make a story based on these two characters, or do I make this adventure story where more and more characters are being added because I'm adding new abilities and so forth every day. So I decided to